Okay. So first of all, who knew? Well, we won't put it that way, but as you all know me, I'm not one that has trouble talking. Right? Look at that, all those smiles. Everybody agrees with that. I can talk. This is the toughest thing I have ever done. It turns out it's really hard to come up with something to say based on the scriptures and where I am in my life, because I recognize that what Lauren would like from us when she has substitute speakers is to hear our witness. And boy, that one, when I thought, witness, I can't give witness. I'm not the kind of person that witnesses. But unfortunately, this is a witness of both my faith and, well, you'll see. The title for my meditation today is Heal. And this actually comes from a story that I think illustrates both the Psalm and Matthew very well today. As you know, I broke my arm. And I came to church, and everyone was very kind and solicitous. And Nancy Neal was particularly solicitous after my concerns, after my health. And she asked if she could pray for my arm and for my broken arm. And she took my casted arm in both her hands, and she raised her eyes to heaven, and she prayed. Heal was her prayer. I think it was at that moment that the final seeds for this meditation came together. Partly because it was one more example of how grateful I am to be a part of this church community. And I am pretty certain her words were heard. I pondered long and hard what to say, and I have to say that this deep attention to Scripture is a really good thing to do. So now that I'm doing it, I'm going to say everyone should get up here and do this. And what I finally decided the readings are about today is how we as individuals are to live in the world and there's a clear message about what the church should be about. So that's where I started. And then the paper came today, and there was another headline that says, widens divide. So I bring that up as we think about the passages today and what it means for our church in a world where the divide seems to be widening, where hurts seem to be deepening, where there's a lot to be thinking about and how we need to interact with the world. So, what is the church to be about? In today's psalm and gospel message from Matthew, we learn that the church is to be, one, about a gratitude for the mercy of God, which then sends us into the world, healing, teaching, and proclaiming the good news. The church is to be about movement, not a static, stay at home, preserve our level of comfort and let them come to us spirituality, but a bold going out into the world that God loves so passionately, sharing what God has given us with those who may not or have not heard God speaking to them, or felt the touch of God's love upon their lives, or have not known how to name either one. So first, gratitude. The psalm says, I love the Lord because he hears my requests for mercy. I'll call out to him as long as I live because he listens closely to me. I want to tell you a story about when we lived in Massachusetts. We attended a congregational church, and among the members was Millie Schaefer. And Millie was known for Millie's little miracles. Now, I will tell you, I was young, and my faith tends to settle more in the doubt land than in the faith land. And I've just accepted that's my trajectory in life. And I was at a time in life when I thought faith should be about big things. Capital B, capital T, big things. So, Millie's Little Miracles. I was condescendingly tolerant of her stories. Let's just put it that way. Every day, Millie would have something happen that she just knew was a miracle, often answering a pressing question or problem. And Millie expressed a joyful and welcoming spirit that I didn't connect at that point with her ability to see everything this way. But as I've gotten older, I realized that when you can see everyday miracles and experience the gratitude that the psalm is expressing, it's because I have opened myself up to possibility, to the possibility of everyday miracles. And therefore, I think we learn from that psalm that it is essential to open ourselves up to seeing what we have been given. The earth and its bounty and beauty, relationships which have sustained us, this church which holds us. If you take time to really, really pay attention, say, and then I have this list, and I'm sure you all have your own. If you really, really pay attention, if you're an artist and you paint, if you're a gardener, if you sit with a friend in need, if you're a researcher who looks at a particularly vexing problem, if you study the planets and stars, if you watch a child at play, hear needed gentle rains, recognize whatever gives your day joy, you know gratitude. Mary Oliver says it well in her poem, Prayer. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention. Then patch a few words together and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks. And in silence, a silence in which another voice may speak. So I start from a place of thanksgiving, gratitude. Where do we go from there? The psalm continues. What can I give back to the Lord for all the good things he has done? I'll lift up the cup of salvation. I'll call on the Lord's name, which is a perfect transition into the gospel. So again, and I edited myself this morning, which is never a good idea, right? I looked at those headlines in the paper, and I thought, we are called to relationship. We are called to radical relationship. We are called to cross those divides and to heal those divides. First, we see Jesus doing his work, and I think maybe with a little bit of weariness, maybe a lot of weariness, but certainly a lot of compassion, it says, Jesus traveled among all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, announcing the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. And when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were troubled and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. And then he said to his disciples, the size of the harvest is bigger than you can imagine, but there are few workers. Therefore, plead with the Lord of the harvest to send out workers for his harvest. Now, I can imagine myself as one of the disciples, hearing this weary exhortation and thinking, okay, what we have to do is we have to pray to send more helpers. There's too much to be done. How can he expect Jesus to get it all done? I mean, really, look at all the hurting, lonely, sick people. There's just too much for him to do. Well, then Jesus says, and I think with more than a touch of exasperation, to his closest friends and companions, that he's talking to them. They are the workers. He says, "The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those with skin diseases, and throw out demons. You received without having to pay. Therefore give without demanding payment." Now, of course, my next response is, not me. No skills, no time. There are so many people better at this than I am, and they are doing the work. Go ask them. I mean, I look around here and I just see people doing amazing things. I know what people are doing. And it's coming from a place of deep faith. So can you hear me? Thank you. How's this? How's that? So I think the disciples, like I, were following this person who showed such wisdom, thinking that if they could just get his message down pat, they'd have it made. Figure out what you want me to repeat back, and I'll have heaven nailed, and then I can go on to other things. I'm pretty sure at the point where he sends them out, they in no way feel ready or able. But Jesus is saying very clearly that we, who we are, is enough. No one else can bring to the needs of the world what we each can bring, or we as a church can bring. We bring the kingdom of heaven through who we uniquely are. We don't need to be more, because we are enough. You are enough. I am enough. We are called as individuals to start from this place of deep compassion, this sense that there is so much to do. Look around and respond to what is right there before you, is the message. Again, when I look around this congregation, I know of so many people who do so many things, everybody. Whether it's sending a card, whether it's sitting with someone who is sitting with someone in the hospital, or have taken on with compassion, helping a hurting, lonely child, who have mentored, who have hugged, who have baked, who have built. I know the love and compassion that are practiced here. And I also know that it goes out to the wider community beyond our church doors. So what is the message to the whole church, not just as individuals, and to us particularly as federated? What is the good news we are commissioned to live as a body in this time and in this place? And I struggle with this a lot, as we all do, looking at the headlines in the news, or knowing, the hurts that among the people that we know who are deeply hurt, have deep, deep needs. Well, the gospel says we are to heal, we are to teach, we are to bring the good news. We are to heal the sick, bring compassion and mercy, and bring hope where it is lost. And this is the good news, that we have everything we need to heal the world where we are, with the gifts we already have, out of gratitude for what we have already been given. We can open ourselves to new possibility. Okay, I hear you. You're all broken arm here. I'd rather go to a doctor to take care of my broken arm. And I have deep gratitude for everyone who helps heal the body and mind. Practitioners, researchers, even insurance companies. But when we are called to heal, are we not being called to touch hearts and minds, to be with people in their time of need, and to offer hope for the future? maybe we can offer a way through the darkness to the light. Now, another thing I think about a lot is that our church membership is getting smaller and smaller, and we're getting older and older. Well, I am not, but you are. Now, sometimes I've asked myself if maybe the good news is that we should be thinking about ourselves as in the life cycle of a church. We should be thinking in terms of simply caring for ourselves at the end of a life cycle. Maybe the good news is that we need to minister to ourselves. And I think this is a reasonable possibility, and I've had discussions with others who don't exactly agree with me on this. It says to have compassion for each other is the first commandment. At least that's what I see in this story. Jesus sent the disciples out first to the Jews before he sent them to the Gentiles. He sent them out to their own to call them back to their own God. We can choose to live out the end of this life cycle of this church by caring deeply for each other. And I think there's a great honor in that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But there's another possibility, and that's to live out the gospel in full relationship with our neighbors. It's not about getting the orthodoxy down pat. We just discussed I don't do that very well. Or about filling the pews with new members, and I'm not even sure that should be our goal. It is about living love in a world which seems to reject that love, compassion, justice, mercy, and peace that the gospel is. So what does it mean to welcome our neighbor, to live the good news in this time and in this place? Well, as I said before, I think it starts with gratitude for everything we have been given, for having experienced the great love, that capital L love, and a deep desire to return that love with mercy and compassion, to offer the cup of salvation, as the psalm says. And then it is to heal, teach, and fight for a just world, to show compassion and mercy. As St. Francis is often quoted as saying, preach the gospel, and when necessary, use words. So, then it leads me to ask, how are we to respond to this great commission as a church? How are we, in these troubled times, to go, as Lauren preached last week, and do? Well, the first thing is to look around and to see what is being done in our community, to welcome immigrants, bring justice to the oppressed, relief for the poor, healing to all kinds of sickness of mind, body, families, community, nation, and prayer, and world. I may have gotten a little overblown here, but just bear with me. And then it takes an openness to a change of heart with the prayer, however tentative, send me, send us, federated. It takes an openness to new ways of doing things, seeing new solutions for problems, and recognizing the new leaders in the fight. In it all, we are to pray for wisdom, vision, and strength, recognizing that we can be blinded by the way things have always been done syndrome and fear of change. But again, I look around at the people sitting here, and I know we have everything we need. We are enough with the help of God. So there's more to the story in the gospel than we read this morning, because I was pretty disturbed by the rest of the story and decided I didn't want it read. And then I thought about it some more, and I thought about it some more. At first I thought it might have been a cranky editor or, somebody in the Middle Ages rewriting this story because it was late at night and things were lousy, and they added their own funky twist. I couldn't possibly relate these words to my in the clouds image I have of Jesus that lingers as someone who never gets unreasonably irritable. or irritated. So the story continues. Jesus says, "Look, I'm sending you as sheep among wolves. Therefore be wise as snakes and innocent as doves. Watch out for people, because they will hand you over to councils and they will beat you in their synagogues." Whoa! I'm not up for that, I'll tell you. Aren't we supposed to want to do this to feel good, knowing we're doing the right thing? Didn't I just mention that fear of change thing? And I'm afraid of beatings. But actually, isn't this the message, the exact message we need for the times in which we live? I don't think there is a way to carry on a conversation at this point with some of our fellow citizens that doesn't end up in a fight or a beating. And I don't care which side of the political divide you fall on, right? Are you not afraid to really express yourself without reservation, in fear of being labeled something? The labels are being thrown left, right, and center from outside of the church and in it. How could we possibly hope for sustainable relationships when we can't trust or are not trusted ourselves? Well, as I was meditating on this and roaming around looking for answers, I came across what I think is a very important idea, which responds directly to what I originally saw as a minor addendum added by an irritated scribe. But I now see as an honest appraisal of the world by Jesus, which describes our own. You cannot force someone to comprehend a message they're not ready to receive. Still, you must never underestimate the power of planting a seed. So there it is. When Nancy took my arm and prayed, "Heal," she prayed the gospel in one simple word. With her gifts, she spread the good news. And this is the good news: that love is stronger than hate, that mercy is greater than tolerance, that compassion is stronger than orthodoxy, that justice must inform the law, and that light overcomes darkness. We are to respond in gratitude to the joyous wonder of our life's bounty by letting the Spirit guide us into new ways of responding to the needs of today, and then go out and plant seeds and bring ourselves and this church into radical relationship with all of God's creation, growing the good news. And those seeds that we will plant are of kindness, understanding, compassion, mercy, and love. And sometimes we will use words.